Let's dive into the discussions shaping the nation.
Get the rare Donald Trump Gamoja Curry Vime Tarifi or Fod na down the policy gan chismuj policy horis Ari Yanis Ari Nis Costa Sheet on much and state Gentia Akame Implacti and Shaws and State August or Fod na Europe of Foster. Last night, Taoiseach, we were subjected to US trade aggression, and to add insult to injury, we had to watch the US play the victim. Trump talked about prying open markets and breaking down barriers. He wants unfettered access to every market, and the EU is front and centre in that agenda. What Trump calls reciprocal tariffs are no such thing. I watched him as he waved the US Trade Estimates Report, a US document that clearly sets out that the average EU tariff is 5% on US goods. But fact and reality took a back seat last night when he went on to claim that the EU imposes tariffs of 39% on US products. What Trump did last night was an act of self-sabotage that will now heap higher costs on US consumers. Because that's what tariffs do, especially blanket tariffs. So we need to be careful not to step into the same space, risking jobs and higher prices for workers and families. We need to protect struggling people with a cost of living crisis and from higher prices, because working people can't be asked to pick up the tab of this mess that Trump has created. Taoiseach, this morning I raised with the Minister for Finance the need for an early assessment of the impact of these tariffs on particular sectors. And that's what we need now to make sure that the supports at state and EU level are in place. We need to see urgency and contingency planning, making sure supports for industry and workers are ready to go if and when they are needed. And we need to actively look at how we de-risk the economy and mitigate the impact of these tariffs. The fact pharma hasn't been hit with these tariffs buys us a little time, but the reality is we don't know how much. Taoiseach, now there are serious issues also in relation to the All-Ireland economy, now that we have two different tariff rates on this small island of ours, and potentially two different responses to those rates. I've been in contact with my party colleague, the Minister for the Economy in the North, and I'm asking that your government here work very closely hand in glove and in lockstep with your counterparts in the Assembly. And the first step to that, Taoiseach, would be to convene the North-South Ministerial Council without delay, and I ask you to do that. Taoiseach, yesterday our party leader, Mary Lou McDonald, asked the Taoiseach to convene a meeting of party leaders, and I'm again repeating that ask today. I'm asking that that happens without delay. We need to have a laser focus on the things that we can control. There are certain things that we can't, and we need to make sure that our voice is heard in Europe in relation to this. We also need to protect our All-Ireland economy. And, Taoiseach, we need to ramp up the badly needed investment. We've been saying it for years that we have allowed our competitiveness to slip. Businesses have been telling us, big and small, of the issues that are affecting us. We need investment in housing, in infrastructure, in energy, in transport, and we need to invest in childcare. It's also a time for cool heads. It's time that we need to take a breath and look at the reality of all the options that are on the table. And we also need to have a clarity in relation to the direction of travel of the Irish Government. So what is the position that the Irish Government will take at the Council meetings? Is the Government supportive of counter-tariffs? Do you support counter-tariffs? The SRI, the Department of Finance, has told us that counter-tariffs will have a negative impact on jobs. It will result in job losses, higher prices for Irish consumers. And also, what's your position in terms of non-tariff measures? And we know that there's been speculation that tech, for example, could be in the firing line there. That would have a significant and deep impact in relation to Irish jobs here if that were to be the case. And also, what is the contingency plans? Are you looking at any supports for particular sectors that are impacted as a result of this here? So can I also ask you to answer the questions in terms of the all-party meeting and the North-South Ministerial Council?
Yeah, look, thanks very much, Lascan Corda. Can I just begin by paying tribute to Mick O'Dwyer? It's a tremendous sadness that we've learned of the passing of one of Ireland's greatest GAA icons, and his contribution to Irish sport, to community life, was extraordinary, particularly in his native county of Kerry, though we do like to claim a bit of him with the great joy he brought us in Wicklow and indeed to many other counties. I think of him and his family today on his passing, and all of the GAA family as well. May he rest in peace. I want to thank Deputy Doherty for the range of questions, and let me agree with you on this. Tariffs are bad. They're bad for Ireland, they're bad for Europe, They're bad for the US economy, they're bad for consumers, they're bad for growth, they're bad for jobs, and it is deeply regrettable, the actions that we saw by the President of the United States of America last night. It seemed absolutely clear, particularly in recent days, that President Trump was determined to have this moment, what I describe as a moment of chaos, in terms of an announcement of tariffs, the biggest change in terms of trading approach in probably a century. He's had that moment now, and what now needs to happen is negotiation. And if I'm to try and find some glimmer of hope in a very dark and grim situation, it is that there were references both by the President last night, the Commerce Secretary, whom I spoke to last week, the Treasury Secretary, and indeed in the actual executive order that the President of the United States signed about negotiation. And that's what needs to happen now. And there needs to be calm, measured, strategic consideration. And I think that is the approach Ireland will take. You ask a very direct question about counter tariffs. Let me firstly say, and I think you agree with this, I mean, this wasn't the EU's idea, it wasn't Ireland's idea. We don't want to be getting into an escalatory tariff situation. I do share that view. But I would also just make this point. We've already had now 3 hits by the United States in relation to this. We had the around 25-26 billion of impact of their steel and aluminium measures that are in place now, around 75 billion in terms of the decisions they've made around cars and the impact that will have on car prices for people right across Europe. And now we don't yet have the quantity of it, but probably hundreds of billions in terms of the announcements last night. At some point, the European Union, which has shown huge restraint, is going to have to say, well, hang on a second, if you're not willing to negotiate and get around the table, there is going to have to be a response. And I think the comments of the European Commission today by the President, President von der Leyen, I thought were balanced, I thought were restrained, and the message is very clear. We want to talk, we want to negotiate, we want to find a way forward. The question is the United States willing to do that? And I think the coming days will show that. The meeting of trade ministers in Luxembourg, at which I'll attend on Monday, will be an opportunity for European member states, the 27 of us, to come together as well. Just to go through your direct questions, yes, we will be carrying out early assessments of impact. As you can imagine, some of that's already happened. I've convened the government's trade forum tomorrow. That involves business representative bodies, and that will be an opportunity to take stock there. In relation to competitiveness and kind of controlling what we can control, I've asked Minister Peter Burke to bring forward proposals to the Cabinet Committee on the Economy, which I chair next Thursday, in terms of what we can accelerate in the programme for government around our own economy, around competitiveness, around productivity. In relation to party leaders and briefings, certainly I've provided the briefings. I know you attended on behalf of your party last week. I'd be very happy to do that again tomorrow. And if there's a need for other 4-hour structures, we have to have a free flow of information. I'm very clear on that. I want to do that. I'm very happy to make all information available to you so that we can have informed debate, discussion and decisions. On the all-island economy, I just came off a call literally 10 minutes ago with your colleague, the Minister for the Economy, Kiva Archibald. I want to acknowledge the job she's doing, the good job she's doing in trying to work her way through this. We met yesterday with the First Minister, Deputy First Minister and Minister Archibald on video conference. And we've agreed to keep in very close contact because that differential does now exist, or at least is likely to exist from the 9th of April as well. And you asked about non-tariff measures, which I think was the anti-coercion instrument. My view on that is that would be the nuclear option, and we should be seeking to de-escalate rather than arrive at that destination.
Doherty.
Thank you for your comment. I'm not sure, just in your response, the North-South Ministerial Council, which I understand they're just waiting confirmation from government here, but I think that's important that the ministers, because this is going to be cross-cutting, obviously, in terms of agriculture, finance, the economy, jobs, and we need that all-Ireland approach, which we saw during the Brexit negotiations in a very clear and effective way. I agree with your points in relation to Trump and that Europe didn't bring this upon ourselves, but we do need to be very careful, and I'm glad that Europe hasn't gone with immediate counter-tariffs, but we do need to be very careful in relation to the impact of any countermeasures, because we do know that countermeasures will increase prices on Irish consumers, and that's something that shouldn't be tolerated in these circumstances, and it will risk jobs and it will risk the public finances. And the real question is will countermeasures bring Trump to the negotiation table? Because what needs to happen is we need cool heads and we need good negotiation and calm. We do know that during the first presidency in Trump, there were countermeasures and it didn't result in his tariffs being reduced. So the last question I would ask you is this: in relation to non-tariff measures, is there discussion at an EU level in relation to that? Is that in the sightlines of Europe? Because if it is, obviously there is a big impact and a big risk for Ireland if they focus on tariffs.
The honest answer on that is I think I've seen a comment from a spokesperson for the French government making some reference to that today. I don't dismiss that, but certainly in the conversations I've had with the Trade Commissioner, the nearly daily conversations, the conversations I've had with probably a dozen European counterparts, the overwhelming majority view is let's try and find a way of getting people around the table. Your question is valid. What gets the US administration around the table? And I think that's the judgment call that we have to work through together in the days and the weeks ahead. I would make the point the EU cannot respond. There's only so much you can actually sit back and watch happen in terms of impact on the European economy. But any measures we take has to be about trying to get to that negotiating table. And I genuinely do share that view. On the North Side Ministerial Council, that sounds sensible to me, but I haven't had an opportunity to discuss it with anybody in government. But certainly regular structured dialogue, North, South, East and West, is going to be essential. You referenced pharma earlier, and can I just take the opportunity to say we shouldn't lull ourselves into a false sense of security here. This is just the start, in my view. President Trump has been clear that he wants sector-specific actions in relation to pharma, and that's why I think, Laskin Corla, it's really important that we work at an EU level. Yes, we have a large pharma industry here, but we're not alone. There's about a dozen EU countries that have a pharma industry, and we've made that point to the Commission. I think the fact that President von der Leyen is now convening next Tuesday a strategic dialogue with the pharma industry is an important step, but we shouldn't fool ourselves that there aren't further plans in relation to sector-specific measures, including pharma.
Like, share, and subscribe, and let us know your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear from you.